Hi everyone, welcome to yet another video. In this video, we'll be accomplishing two tasks. Number one will be to automate fetching subdomains for our target, and number two will be to containerize the entire solution. So by the end of this video, we will have built a small but complete cybersecurity focused product. Since this is our first product in the series, we can expect a few rough edges, but that's part of the learning process, right? Okay, so what would be the contents of this video? The contents would be what we want to accomplish through this project, a high level diagram, details on how the product works, containerizing with Docker, and that's pretty much it. So let's get started with a proper high level diagram. Let's start by visualizing on how it works. Imagine that you are a bug bounty hunter and you want to fetch all the subdomains that are associated with your target. What you will be doing is passing the domain name and the output file into our script. This script will query a monitoring service and return a list of subdomains, which will then be saved in the specified file that we had actually passed in the initial phase. The monitoring service that we'll be using here is called crt.sh. But before we move ahead and build our solution, let's learn what and how CRT actually works. So CRT is a query service that queries certificate transparency logs. Now, what are certificate transparency logs? So whenever a user or a product owner requests a certificate, the certificate authority issues it a certificate. But not only does it do that, it also logs the name of the subdomain or the domain that it issued a certificate for in something called certificate transparency logs. CRT simply pulls data from these logs and makes it a great source for subdomain discovery. So let's review how CRT actually works. Let's go to crt.sh where you can access CRT and you can just type in the name of the domain that you want to search the logs for. Now, when we do that, you can see that it sends a GET request to the crt.sh queue endpoint, where Q is the name of the query parameter and the d.co part here is actually the subdomain or the domain that we had searched for. As you can see from the UI, our results are displayed in the form of a table, which makes scraping easier. We also see options to download the results in a CSV and a JSON format, but these often fail or become unreliable when the result set is too large. So in that case, it will eventually time out. So in the UI, as you can see, there are multiple columns, but what we are actually interested is in the matching identities section. Alright. However, as you can see, there are multiple entries which include a wildcard in the part of the subdomain. So we will need to filter those out. The next thing is looking into the source code and writing the script. So if we were to look at the source code, you can see HTML source code that this is actually a table. Table contains multiple of tr and th tags, and what we are actually interested is in the matching identities column. So what we can do is we can just download the entire HTML source code in the form of and paste it in a file. Now using that file, we can pass it to Gemini and generate a script which fetch results from the matching identities column, and it'll give us something similar to what we need, but we'll have to make a few improvements on that file. So let's see what Gemini gave us. So this is something that Gemini will probably give you after you have given it a well-written prompt. But in the future, what might happen is a reverse proxy or WAF might block our automated requests. So we need to make our request look more human. The way we can do it is by introducing something called custom headers. In that custom header, we'll define something called user agent. We'll define some headers like accept language, connection, upgrade, insecure requests, and something like, and a few headers like these. These can be passed in the requests.get part, and we'll pass it as headers. Secondly, we'll also use verify is equal to false to avoid SSL TLS certificate issues that might arise in the future. So after adding the custom headers and disabling verification, we can run the script. So Let's just start with that. So Python 3 exploit domain, which is d.co, and the output is output dot text. So as you can see, it is actually doing its work, and the script successfully generates our output, which is in the output.txt file. Okay, so one more thing that we had added here is to kind of remove any part of the result that starts with an asterisk. We did not remove any duplicate entries, so you can just write another prompt to Gemini to do that. So as you can see that it successfully generated a result. The next thing that we would want to do here is to containerize the entire part over here. So this will be helpful in lift and shift scenarios, so that you can run this as part of your uh, orchestration, or make this product a small part of an entire big fleet that you want to make a product out of. So let's see how we can containerize it with the help of Docker. The only prerequisite here is that you should already be familiar with Docker basics. Alright, let's get started. So each container image is made up of multiple layers, and each layer executes after the preceding ones. So for this build, we'll be using a Python image as our base layer. We'll create a directory inside the base image, and we'll name it /app, and copy our script and the requirements.txt file into that directory. After all of this has been done, we need to install the requirements, right? So we will be downloading the dependencies. And finally, what will happen is we will build an image out of all of this. Once the image is built, we will run a container image. So the next thing that we need to do is create all of this. So for that, we will be using Docker. So first of all, we will be creating something called a Docker file. So the file that is used to create an image is generally called Docker file. You can name it anything, but for learning purposes, just begin with Docker file. So as discussed earlier, we'll be using Python as base image, preferably a lightweight one. So let's just go to Docker Hub. Let's search for Python. As you can see, there is an official Python image, and there are a lot of tags associated with Python. So you have tags for Python 3.15. For this, we'll be using 3.9. Okay, I don't see it here, but in my project, what I have done is I have used Python 3.9. So you can probably use that. The reason I selected 3.9 was specific because I am using a specific version of it. So what I'm doing here is I'm using Python from Python 3.9. The reason I'm using it is because I've already tested and tried it out, and the second thing is because this is actually very lightweight. So but for your use cases, and if you have a large disk space, you can probably use full-fledged ones. So here are a list of few that you can use. Okay, the next thing that we will be doing is copying exploit.py and the requirements file. Why am I doing it? Because the name of my file is exploit.py, and the list of requirements in the requirements.txt file. So requirement.txt file contains three dependencies: requests, argparse, and beautiful soup. Why is that? Because these are the ones that we are using. Alright, the way we can do it is by using the copy command, but before that we need to set a working directory. So as we had discussed, we will be creating a working directory within the container. We'll be using copy exploit.py, and we'll be copying that exploit.file in the working directory, which is app. Again, we'll be copying the requirements.txt file in the working directory. Now that we have done it, we need to install the dependencies that are part of the requirements.txt file. Since we had already copied this, the next thing we need to do is run pip install no. The reason I'm using no cached dir is because it will reduce the weight on the Docker image that we'll create. So, but if you don't want to use it, you feel free to omit it out. Okay, now that we have run it, we need to kind of make the user pass certain arguments. Now, the way you can allow a user to pass arguments in a Docker is using entry point. So you can use entry point and followed by Python exploit.py. All right. So we could have also used CMD, but when we do that, it does not allow users to pass their arguments. So we had to use entry point. Now, what if a user does not pass any arguments and it fails? So we need to make sure that a help menu pops up. So we can do this with the help of CMD help. Now that we have created a Docker file, the next thing that we need to do is kind of build that Docker file. The way we can do it is using docker build -t, and by -t, t is for tags. So we'll have to name this Docker image. So we'll be naming it domain enum latest and using dot. The reason I'm using dot is because we have a naming convention which is Docker file. Had I not named it as Docker file, I would have been using file, but lucky for us, I'm using Docker file. Now it'll start building it. So as you can see, it has started building our, it has first of all because it works in layers, it is building each layer one by one, and we'll have Docker image built for us. So if I use Docker images, you can see we have Docker enum and we had supplied the latest tag. So here it is. The next thing we need to do is run Docker container. So we can use Docker run tag rm. The reason I'm using rm is because I don't want to save it. I'll just delete the running container after it has run. So I will be using domain enum latest domain d.co, and output would be funky.txt. As you can see, it works just like we had seen it originally, working in the part of the exploit.py file. And as you can see, it has saved the file in the it has saved my results in the funky.txt file. But if I do this, we don't see anything called funky.txt, right? That's because this file is saved inside the container, which was removed after execution. So we cannot like fetch it again. To fix that, we need to mount a volume. The way we do it is using docker run tag rm. Mounting a volume is through -v, and we do pwd. I'll explain what this does in a moment. And domain enum, we do the exact same things that we had done originally. .co, output funky.txt. So what this command does is, this command maps our current folder to the app directory, right? So if I do this, you will see that funky.txt actually exists now. So as part of the conclusion, this is how we built our small app, which kind of fetches our subdomains that we are looking for. So we automated a subdomain discovery tool using crt.sh. I know it wasn't complete, we could have incorporated a lot of things, but this is just the beginning. We parsed and filtered the results and containerized the entire solution using Docker. So thank you guys, this is it for the video.